Hi, Garrett Stuckey with the Startup 360 podcast, where I sit down with startup founders and interview them on a 360 camera. So you can hop on YouTube, put on a VR headset, and be a part of this interview. Do me a favor, please subscribe, give us some likes, shares, let your friends know. You can also get a hold of me at garrett@startup360podcast.com or at 734-274-9521. Today, I've got Avery Piantadosi of Safe Lois. And first, thanks for coming on. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And yeah, so let's dive right in. Why don't you kind of introduce yourself and then introduce Safe Lois for us?
Okay. So my name is Avery Piantadosi. I'm the founder and creator of the Lois Safety app. It's in both app stores right now. It's been about 5 years in creation with a couple little iterations along the way. Basically, it protects people when they're out showing a house, they're getting into an Uber, they're going on a date. Online dating is really popular now. So anytime somebody is in a situation where they're meeting someone that they don't know for the first time, or they feel like they're in a little bit of a vulnerable situation, Lois will check up on you by calling you or texting you, and if you don't respond, it will trigger the emergency response system, which will either tell the police where you are based on the phone's geolocation, or it will text whoever you told it to text or call prior to setting up that check-in.
Gotcha. Well, that's pretty cool. So how did you, where did this idea come from?
The idea came from a situation that I had when I was showing a townhome. I had moved to Florida from Michigan and opened my own real estate brokerage. And I was showing a home to somebody that I hadn't met before. And immediately when I was in that showing, I felt like something was wrong with this person. He smelled like alcohol. He was kind of repeating himself. He was trying to back me into corners, and it was really scary. And so luckily I didn't, he wanted me to show him upstairs. I didn't go upstairs with him. I just told him to go up on his own. And I was able to get out of that house and out of that showing, only to find out after that this guy had kind of like a rap sheet and had been arrested for other things before. I think one of them was domestic violence and DUIs and things like that. So one of the things I learned was I should have done a background check, but the other more important thing was nobody knew where I was on that showing. I was far away from home, and if something had happened to me, who knows when it would have been discovered.
Yeah.
So I looked on the market to see if there was some kind of safety app that would cover me during these types of situations, and there wasn't, so that's what led to me creating Lois.
Wow. Yeah, that's really scary, and because I'm in real estate as well, and I think personally, being a male, I feel generally more safe, but I've still had weird interactions.
Right.
So I definitely see that, and you hear stories too of, much worse things happening than what you experienced.
Right.
So
I was lucky.
Yeah.
I mean, even though it was scary and I had to have a friend spend the night that night and stuff, I was one of the lucky ones.
Mm-hmm.
So there's so many opportunities for victimization out there.
Yeah, absolutely. So this happens, we have this awful event, and you start looking around, and there's really nothing that says, hey, I'm safe and I can set it up. And so you started developing Lois, and what was I guess let's dive into a little bit about what Lois looks like compared to maybe just sharing your location on Google Maps, which is what I currently do.
Right.
And it's, you know where I'm at, but...
Right. Yeah, when I started looking at because there are safety apps out there, and there's things that are, come with your phone, your iPhone, or what have you. When I started looking, the biggest component that was missing was the proactive feature. So there are a lot of apps where if you're in trouble, you press a button, or you pull your headset out of the phone, or I think iPhone has something where you tap the on button for 5 times and it sends an alert. So these are all things that you have to actually do.
Yeah.
So if you're in a situation where someone's attacking you, coming after you, or you're just scared, a lot of times you can't pick up the phone to call 911, or you may be separated from your phone. In addition to that, calling 911 is only 60% accurate. So what a lot of people don't know is that when 911 was set up, we had landlines. There was no such thing as a cell phone. And they're slowly repairing that issue of it not being as accurate as it could be, but it's much more accurate to tap into the geolocation of a phone. So even if someone is standing there and they are able to dial 911, that still is only going to help them marginally.
So the accuracy, just to clarify, is your location.
Correct.
So on a landline, it's mounted to a wall, so they knew where
They know
you were.
exactly where that landline's coming from.
But cell phones
right?
obviously move around.
Right, and unless you are able to say, I am here at this address, they're not going to know.
Yeah.
They're going to kind of be able to hone in on you a little bit, maybe based on some information, but so the fact that 911 isn't that accurate, the fact that most people, when they're scared in a situation, can't dial 911, or there's that human nature to, am I overreacting? I'm not sure. I don't want to call the police and have them come and then I look like an idiot. So there's all these like weird things happening when that's even when you're in danger.
Yeah.
People still don't want to offend people, which is just a weird thing about human nature.
Uh-huh.
So I just thought this has to be something that you can be proactive about. You can set up ahead of time. And we do have, an alert button on it. So if you don't have an active check-in set up, you still can press the alert button and it'll send it to the police and let them know where you are, or your husband, your spouse, whoever. But I wanted it to be something that would work regardless if you reacted or not. And something that was going to check up on you. And that's the whole thing. Like if you're incapacitated, Lois still works.
Yeah. And that is really a key difference then.
It is.
So that setup, let's say, so going back to your situation where, obviously at the end you probably wish you would have called 911 or been able to. Are there like multiple steps, like, hey, text my friends and then call 911? Like, what is that?
You can do that. You can do it however you want. So what I think most people would do is set it up where it first alerts an emergency contact before it gets escalated to 911.
Yeah.
So that emergency contact is going to be reached. They're going to know there's something wrong. It's then up to that person to respond. And in future versions of the app, we are going to have, like, if that contact person can't be reached or doesn't respond within a certain amount of time, it will default to 911 if you want it to be that way.
Gotcha.
And you don't have to have you don't have to have an emergency contact part of it. So some people are like, I don't want anyone knowing where I am. I don't want something checking up on me. It's not like when you set that, it's going to follow you around and tell everybody where you are. It only will do what you tell it to do.
Okay. So you would say, hey, I'm going to show houses at 5 o'clock. So at that time you'd set up the check-in from like...
I'm meeting a new client. It'll say, who are you meeting? You can pull from your calendar, so it can have all the information you put in your calendar. I mean, I use my calendar like every second of every day. So I'm very scheduled. A lot of people are. So if you are, you can pull right from your calendar. And if not, you can just put it right in the Lois system. Who are you meeting? Where are you going? When, you could even add a description of the person. You can put in their phone number, their contact information, and then when do you want to be contacted. So if I had a 5 o'clock showing, I'd say, contact me at 5:15, text, call, whatever you want to do. Again, that's totally customizable. And then you're on the showing, you meet the person, you're like, this person's awesome, they're fine, I don't have any weird feelings. You can, once that check-in comes in, you can dismiss it.
Yeah.
If you're not sure and you're like, I need a little bit more time, you can snooze it. So that's kind of how it works. And if you don't respond, then it will trigger that emergency protocol that you set up prior to that event.
Gotcha. And is it going to continue to check in with you as well after, let's say, like, it contacts your emergency contact? Is it going to keep checking in with you?
No.
Or at that point, we've escalated, and it's like now we're
Right.
actively trying to.
Right. Once that's triggered, it's triggered. And a lot of people have said, well, what if you forget, and what if you don't answer? And I always say, well, it's the same kind of thing as a home alarm system. You know, you have to be aware that you're using a security that is plugged into first responders.
Yeah.
So you can't just callously use it and forget you have it on, and then, because the police will show up.
Yeah.
Or you're going to really worry your contact person.
Yeah.
You have to be cognizant when you're using it.
Gotcha. So, in regards to calling 911, what does that process look like? Because now, instead of having a person call 911, Lois is calling. Just what does that look like, I guess?
So the Lois API basically interacts with the telecom companies API and the E911, their infrastructure. So E911 is enhanced 911 or electronic 911, which allows responders to get texts now and those types of communications, whereas before it had to be phone calls.
Yeah.
So basically the call will go in, and this is all happening within, I think our response rate is just a few minutes, depending on your cell carrier.
Okay.
But basically the call will come into you, you don't answer, it defaults to, let's say, E911.
Yep.
That call will go to that, based on your geolocation, that first responder that's closest to you, and it'll say, you know, this person was meeting this, whoever it was, at this location, and something is not right.
Gotcha.
And then local law enforcement will show up at that location.
Okay. Gotcha. And now, let's transitioning. So, obviously, we have people using this system now. Have you had any stories come out where, like, hey, I was in a situation where 911 was called or my emergency contact was called, and I'm here today because of it, or like, what are some? Do you have like some examples from, I guess, real life?
I wish we did. We haven't been in the market long enough to have those types of stories coming back to us, because we literally just got into the app stores recently.
Okay.
So this originally was a web application,
Yeah.
and we built it out to work with flip phones and landlines, and we realized pretty quickly, like year 2 or 3, that everyone wanted it to be an app format.
Yeah.
So we really didn't push it out. We did have a partnership with the Children's Home Society that we customized for them so they could use the flip phone, because that's what they have. They don't have smartphones on the job.
Yeah.
So these are caseworkers going into homes all the time. And unfortunately, after spending a lot of, development time and money customizing for them, they didn't use it. They were, starting to use it. We were starting to get people to join, but we found that the real barrier to entry was the fact that it wasn't an app. That they had to use the flip phone and go through some extra steps to set up their check-ins, which they didn't want to do.
Yeah.
Luckily, that was a really good time for us to pivot. So that was like the first time that we were like, okay, this isn't working, but we didn't have this huge user base to have to decide to figure that out. We were still kind of small.
Okay.
So that's when we made our pivot into, we're going to make this into an app. So right now we've got people using it who are doing it as a beta testers, some users who are using it as in their daily life, but we don't have those case studies yet. And,
Gotcha.
Obviously that's going to be like we're hoping to have those as soon as we do like the real launch. We're hoping that we're going to start having those success stories.
Great. So, picking up, we had some lighting issues, but so you had this pivot where you had the web app where basically it was like probably filling in like your calendar information, whatever, and then you could set up those alerts, and then switching to a phone app. Obviously, so one thing that you learned was the ease of use out of that. Were there any other lessons that kind of came through kind of going from a web app to a phone app?
Well, I think the main thing was that no matter what format it is, if it's not easy, people aren't going to use it.
Yep.
And, you can test that with yourself, and I'm a good case study for that. If I can't figure it out within like 5 seconds, I won't use it. So that was the biggest lesson, that it has to really seamlessly integrate. And I call it the Dropbox analogy, because the CEO of Dropbox, he was in front of, I think they were going for one of their big rounds of funding. He was in front of a bunch of venture capital people, and they were saying, there's so many file management systems out there. Like, why would we invest in this? You're just another one. And he said, because people are using it, because it's easy, because it's a no-brainer. And it's true. And that's what propelled Dropbox to the heights that it's at now. It was simple.
Yeah.
So I took that to heart, and when we went back to designing, which was disheartening because, you have all this momentum. We did this huge fundraiser, and we had a lot of press and a lot of PR out of it, and people are anticipating this product, and then we're like, no, we got to go back to the drawing board. It's hard to take.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I knew that that's where things were moving, and we had to do it.
Yeah.
So and like I said, we were able to pivot early enough that it really didn't affect anything that dramatically, other than extend our timeline.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, it's good that you were able to catch that early and pivot quickly. And I think when you're in a big, like a beta test like you had going, like that's got to be hard. So, kudos for you to do that.
Thank you.
So you kind of mentioned fundraising, and what is your current kind of funding? Like, how are we? You've been doing this for 5 years, right? So how have we gotten this far in terms of fundraising?
So it's been funded by myself, so founder funded, which is typical. I do have a co-founder who I would say was the first investor.
Yep.
He was the first actual investor to take equity.
Okay.
And then we went for another round about 2.5 years ago to build the app out, and so we were able to secure funding to actually get the app completed, and that was mostly for development.
Okay.
So yeah, I would say it's been angel funded up until this point.
Okay. And
we're now going for like a second seed round to get this product launched, nationally.
Gotcha. Great. And so along that, we were kind of talking beforehand. You've also had some pretty cool partnerships along the way. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Well, in 2017, Lois won the technology docking program with NASA, which basically allowed us to utilize a technologist to build out some future tech for the app.
Okay.
So the tech basically allows you to utilize your phone and the app if if Wi-Fi goes down or there's a power outage. At the time I was living in Florida, I'd gone through 2 hurricane evacuations, not having power, any communications, and so I kept thinking, what would happen if people were starting to depend on this for their safety and the grid goes down for whatever reason. So we developed that specific technology with the NASA partner that was lended to us for that year, and that's actually part of the pending patent application that we have. It's a utility patent application.
Gotcha. And so when the grid goes down, Lois is still able to operate. Obviously I don't want to give away trade secrets or anything like that. Are you saying like if I have 0 cell phone service, Lois still works?
It will work to connect you with first responders. So it basically bounces from Wi-Fi to a different frequency. We use radio frequency.
Okay.
That's all I can really say about it. And what'll happen is it'll turn it into sort of a radio transmitter, so you can at least get in touch with first responders. You're not going to be able to sit there and text, surf the web, make phone calls to your friends, things like that. It's not designed to do that. It's designed to make that phone usable in case the electricity goes out and all, everything else is not working. So like when we had the hurricane, I mean, there were about 5 hours within that night where we had nothing. We had no cell service, no TV, no power, nothing. It would have kicked in at that point.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So, that's... Because it takes it from just every day, I'm going on a date, I am showing houses to a new client, to I'm in a storm, I'm always able to have some form of communication.
Right.
For safety.
Right.
And that's really powerful.
Yeah.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
So, you're in both, you have both Android and Apple apps. Correct. Right now, and they're in the App Store. Do you want to talk a little bit about pricing model and kind of how you came up with that?
We're at around $79 to, depending on the package you get, like if you wanted your whole family on it, we have like a family deal. Okay. And we're still kind of working out pricing, but about $79 a year. Okay. And we looked at a lot of different prices of all the different safety apps, all the different, things you could go out there and get. The yearly subscription model was a choice that we made because typically in this price point, people want to just kind of be one and done. We feel like for under $80, you're safeguarding yourself for a whole year. Yeah. It's not something that's going to hurt your pocketbook necessarily. And then when you look at it from an investor standpoint, they like to see these SaaS products on a yearly subscription model, because to chase people's credit cards every month creates a real issue. And it's like too much bandwidth to get that. So that's why we went to the yearly model, to be more attractive to investors.
Gotcha. And what was I going to say? What have been some things, we've been doing this for 5 years, what are some things that have kind of come up and surprised you as you've been developing all this?
That's a really good question. I've been surprised all along, almost on a daily basis. I think the main thing that kind of surprised me was the willingness for people to help with this. Okay. Very early on, this felt like something that I was led to do, and that was sort of being led to do. It wasn't one of the things in my life that I thought up and create. I wasn't like, oh, I want to all of a sudden start a software company and do this kind of thing. So alongside with that feeling like I was being led to do it, I was led to the right people. When I needed developers, it was like I would go to a meeting the next day and someone would be like, I really want to help. Or if I needed an attorney, or I needed all these resources that I didn't even know I needed, they would just kind of come out of the woodwork. Okay. Part of that was I was on the Space Coast while this was all happening, which is this little microcosm of tech talent that a lot of people don't even realize unless you're in that scene. But there's so much excitement around a lot of tech products anyway down there. This added a level of, wow, like it was a geeky kind of excited thing, but it was also this, you're trying to help people and we want to help you do it. Yeah. And everyone knew where I was coming from with it, that it wasn't about money, it wasn't about me, it was about, I don't ever want anyone to go through what I went through or could have potentially gone through if it had gotten worse during that experience. And so that's been really surprising to me, the people just wanting to help. And the fact that I was able to kind of immerse myself into this tech world also surprised me on a personal level, because it was just something I would have never anticipated about myself, 10 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, it's that's really cool to hear. I think being kind of falling into something like this where, you needed it, so you had to build it, right? And you wanted to help others, and you know, obviously in the real estate industry, like you're very aware of that. Are you, in terms of like real estate now, are you seeing lots of brokerages kind of and like being in those conversations with those in terms of implementing this for their real estate agents and things like that?
We've had, when it was still a web app, our marketing strategy for that vertical was to go for the associations, because we thought we'll target the associations and then it'll trickle down to the brokers and then the individuals. What I found was that was kind of, I had that idea inverted. So really the effective way to do it is start with the individual agents.
Okay.
And sort of develop like a grassroots kind of swell there, and then it'll trickle up.
Gotcha.
I also had the good fortune of a good friend of mine, one of my best friends in Florida. Her brother is the CEO of BombBomb.
Yep.
BombBomb.
Yep.
The video marketing SaaS product. And I had a long conversation with him one day because they started targeting real estate. I think initially that was their first vertical, and he actually wasted like almost a year or two going to the boards. And he was like, once I got there, the deals were not, good. We weren't making money. It just didn't make sense. So he actually saved me a lot of time and aggravation by sharing that information with me.
Yeah.
And obviously they're doing phenomenally well, so they made the right decisions. But I think just targeting those individual agents, I mean, every time I ever go to a convention or even talk at an office, there's just this huge understanding within the industry that this is a problem. This is like the dirty little secret of the real estate industry.
Absolutely.
And I was surprised to find out that 35% of the assaults that happen are against men too, because you always think of women being attacked or assaulted. With men it's more physical. With women it tends to be more sexual assaults. But men are still part of that final figure of how many people are assaulted per year in that industry. So everyone's affected by it.
Yeah, and I fell into that stereotype in the beginning of this interview on that.
Yeah.
A little embarrassed, to be honest, but I'm glad you said that.
No, it's true, and it's a common misconception, and men feel safer in the world. They just do. It's sad, but it's just part of our world.
Yep.
And that was one of the things we thought about with Lois being sort of a virally distributable, because we thought, if a woman's on it, even if a man doesn't need it for himself, he's going to want to be on the system with his wife.
Yeah.
He's going to want to be aware of those check-ins, what she's doing, where she's going.
Yeah.
So that's a way that we can capture the male audience, but also letting men know, especially men who have been assaulted, or that, we know that you're part of that statistic. You might not talk about it as much, but we are aware of it, and we're also here for you.
That's really great.
Yeah.
So it's about time to get to the rapid fire questions.
Okay.
Is there anything that we didn't talk about that you want to make sure we touch on before we do that?
No, I just want people to know that it is available. We are going to do a launch here in the next few months, once we get our funding secured. But you can download the app now. You can go in under Safe Lois. If you look up Safe Lois on either app store, you can get a 14-day free subscription to it, play with it. Yeah. And we are looking for beta testers who want to be part of like our ongoing development loop. Be happy to give you the information of where somebody can do that too.
Fantastic. Yeah, we'll definitely hit that at the end here.
Okay.
So, and then that information will also be in the show notes if you're watching. Cool. So let's hit the rapid fire, and then we'll go from there. So, first question is, what is your best habit?
My best habit is keeping lists, and I use pen and paper technology to do it. So every single day I go to my list and I check them off as they're done. I sometimes move them over, but that has kept me organized and so simple, and I think that's been like my whole life in my career has helped me.
That's great. So flip side is, what are you bad at and how do you solve it?
Oh, I'm bad at so many things. I am not the most detail-oriented person when it comes to certain things. I'm more, just like a lot of entrepreneurs, I'm more of that, I kind of see the overview of everything. So I'm not detail-oriented with, I call it the minutia, paperwork and things of that nature. And the best way to solve it is to hire somebody, farm it out to somebody who is really good at that and likes it, and it's one of their gifts.
Third question is, who has been the kindest person in your life?
Oh my gosh, that's a really good question. The kindest person. Oh, well, my parents have both been really kind and supportive to me my whole life. I mean, they're very sweet people. I've been really lucky to be surrounded by amazing people. So I don't think I can distill that to like one person.
Okay. Well, I'll accept your parents and two. They're one unit. That's great.
My dogs,
dogs.
But they're not people, but
Yeah.
they trump everyone.
Okay.
So.
That's funny. What was it? So the next question is, what is your advice to the high school graduate, college graduate, and the 50-year-old?
My advice, like general advice,
yeah.
or
Yeah, so it can be anything in the world that you would tell a high schooler.
wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So the high schooler, I would say, have fun.
Mm-hmm.
Don't feel like you have to settle down too early.
Yeah.
You're young and just have fun and enjoy your life and explore who you are. The college graduate.
Yeah.
College graduate. I would say the same thing to a degree. I'd say, you're still young. Don't feel like you have to pigeonhole yourself. And to the college graduate, I would say if you have to change careers, it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people do.
Yep.
So don't feel like that's a bad thing.
Yeah.
50-year-olds. That's hard because I'm not there yet. So I don't know how to give advice to people older than me, but I would probably say to 50-year-olds, pat yourself on the back for making it as far as you have half a century. And buy the Lois app.
Yeah. Wonderful. I like that. So last rapid fire question is, what is one question you think I should ask all of my guests?
One question I think you should ask all of your guests. I like questions pertaining to, since you're doing the startups, advice to give to other startups.
Okay.
If I've been asked before, if somebody were to come to you and ask, should I do this or whatever, I think that's very useful for people who are considering starting a company.
Okay.
So that would be the question.
Okay. So let's answer your question. What advice would you give to somebody thinking about starting a company or somebody just starting out?
I would say don't do it. Run while you still can, turn around. No, I would say the best advice would be to very quickly find out what this product is and how is it going to make money.
Okay.
Because a lot of people overcomplicate starting a company, and the nature of a company is it's supposed to be, profitable.
Yeah.
Unless you're starting a nonprofit, and that's a totally different thing.
Mm-hmm.
But what is your product? Make sure that you can describe it or have somebody understand it very quickly, like in less than a minute.
Okay.
And also how you're going to make money should be you should be able to easily say, like for me, it's a SaaS product. People are going to pay $80 a year for it.
Yeah.
It has to be very clear.
Yep.
If you can't answer those two questions very quickly, then you're overcomplicating your idea and you need to kind of, hone it in.
Gotcha. I think that's great advice.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. So as we wrap up, how do we get in touch with you? And so obviously we download it. And how does the audience help you? That was the other.
You can download it. You can go to safelois.com. That's the website. It has all the information. I'm sure you'll put that in the comments.
Yep.
Anybody who wants to actually beta test it or be a part of the development or the launch, they can email me at avery@safelois.com.
Okay.
That's my direct email. So anyone who wants to join the team or is, eventually we're going to be hiring, I'd be
Great.
happy to start talking to people about that. And then what was the other part of that question?
Oh, just to get a hold of you. So like
Okay.
we'll put up like any like social media links, things like that. I don't know if there's like a platform that you prefer over others, but
No, I mean right now I have there's a Facebook account for Lois. We're not on Instagram at the moment.
gotcha.
Well, we are, but it's not active. So
Uh-huh.
I would say, reaching out through the website or Facebook is probably the best way right now.
Great.
Or you can reach me directly.
Awesome. I think that works well. So, thank you for being on. I really appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
I'm actually really excited about this product, and I think there's definitely a need for it. So,
Great, I appreciate that.
absolutely.
Thanks a lot.
You're welcome. To those watching, please check out safelois.com. Download it in the App Store. Also, again, make sure you're subscribed on YouTube, Startup 360 Podcast, and until next time.